So let's talk about verbal communication. A lot of the interventions and therapies for autistic people focus on verbal communication, and for a lot of parents, the thing that is really striking for them is that, oh my goodness, my child lost their words, or oh my goodness, my child never got their words. So they focus a lot of time and energy on helping their child to get their words back. But the thing is, for a lot of folks on the spectrum, verbal communication is not their thing. It's not their preferred way of communicating, and it's not the best way for them to communicate with others about their wants and needs. So it leaves us with the question, if we are focusing solely on training children with autism to communicate verbally, when that's not necessarily the way that works for them, are we really helping them? Now, in our society, in human societies, there is understandably a prejudice towards verbal communication. I mean, I'm talking to you right now with words. But verbal communication is not the only way that we can communicate with each other. There's so many other ways. I'm communicating to you with my voice, not just my voice, my facial expressions, where my eyebrows go, whether I turn my mouth up or down, the tilt of my head, my shoulders. There's so much more that we use to communicate than just the words that come out of our mouths. And for folks with autism, they communicate with those same methods as well. We just have to learn to pay attention to those forms of communication that they do use. My kids, they do a lot of communicating with facial expressions and body language. And it's great to read them and to read their emotions. They've got great senses of humors that come out in their preferred way of communicating. And again, it's necessary for us who love our verbal communication to get creative in the ways that we communicate with autistic people. Grab a pencil and a piece of paper and start writing. It's a great way to communicate. What? Person you're trying to communicate doesn't know how to read yet? Guess what? That's a great way to teach them and learn and help them grow. Once one of my kids figured out that if he wrote stuff down on paper, fun stuff happened for him. Oh my goodness. I had reams and reams of paper conversations with him. I kind of got tired of carrying around a folder full of paper with me everywhere I went and making sure I had a pen. So thanks to modern technology, we use cell phones and tablets now. And I learned very quickly that I cannot leave him unsupervised with any of my stuff, because then all my notes disappear. So he's got his own gadget that he can type all of his conversations with me out on, and it's great. I get to see his sense of humor. We get to have great conversations. I get to see what's going on in his head a little bit more. So think creatively when you're thinking about communicating with autistic people. Don't just think verbal communication, and don't freak out because someone's not using their words. Okay? There are lots of other ways to communicate. Be creative in seeking out those ways. And I have to tell you, it can be frustrating when you don't know the right words and you can't get the right words out and you don't have any other options for communicating. I've seen it. I've seen the frustration and the fear and the anger on children's faces when they desperately have something to communicate, but they don't have any communication tools because no one thought to teach them how to communicate other than with words. So, build a communication toolkit for your children, and don't just think about putting words in there with verbal communication, because we communicate with each other in so many different ways. If you've noticed, I talk with my hands, not as much in the videos, but in real life, I'm all over the place with the talking with my hands. So it's not just words that we use to communicate with each other and communicate meaning to each other. So teach that to your autistic children as well, and read that in them. Read what they're communicating with you, because people are communicating to us all the time. They're just not always using words. And for any clinicians out there or researchers who might be taking a look at this, verbal communication is a big deal. Again, that's how I'm communicating to you guys. But for autistic people, you're gonna have to think a little bit outside the box. Every time I say that, some autistic person pops up and goes, "There's a box?" Yep, there's a box. And a lot of us are living inside that box, not even realizing that. For autistic people, they don't know that there's a box. And inside our box, verbal communication is the thing, but for autistic people, maybe not always so much. So verbal communication is great, but it doesn't always work for everyone. So, cut people some slack and recognize that not everybody's like a wordsmith and is gonna be just have words popping out of their mouth all the time. Sometimes they're gonna have words flowing out of their fingertips, either or they're going to be writing or typing or drawing, or they're going to be using behavior and body language. So let autistic people communicate in the way that works best for them. See you later, guys.